get everybody up here meeting? Everybody's hands clean?
You want to try it? Go, you're welcome. Go wash your hands.
Yeah, so like right now, as I'm feeling it, like there's still a little bit of water left in there, which the recipe called for 2.5 cups. But I could feel in the dough that it's still wet, so I don't think we need any more flour. Try to incorporate the last part.
Do you have to get all of the flour inside?
No. It's different every time. Like the humidity outside, the temperature is going to kind of tell you how much how much flour the dough is going to take. The only reason why I'm incorporating is I can still feel that it's a little wet. So I want it to feel a certain way and look a certain way, and that'll tell me that it's done. We're getting there. So when the trail's ready, we'll let him pretty much finish up. And bring it over, push it down, like you're folding. You see how it's getting tight? That's because we're probably over kneading a little bit, so we're probably at the point where we're good to let it sit. Cause that's all, that's all you do, right? Some doughs you knead a lot, and you want them to tighten. This is pretty much the right consistency that we want. And then what we'll do now is, you want to take the paper towel out of there? Yeah. And then with the oil, put like a tablespoon of oil in there. You don't have to be precise. It's not crazy or anything.
I think that's enough, right?
That's good.
Yeah. So now we're going to put it in here. Alright. Your saran wrap or anything, or a towel?
Yeah, I left you a towel over there.
Okay.
It's right in front of you.
Open this up. The towel. And we're gonna. Big enough? Yeah. And we'll let this sit closer to the windows, probably good because it'll be a little warmer. And then like an hour or two, probably 2 hours, around lunchtime, we can come back and that'll be ready to go. And then we can do the rest of it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Fiore. And now we're going to make the gravy, make the sauce, make the pizza sauce. Okay, so this is the next part of the demonstration.
They want the flavor, but they're not going to put the whole head of garlic in. So it kind of helps get the husk off, put a knife on it, bang it.
Okay.
And then it's also kind of cut for me too. That'll open up, so even though it just opens up a little bit, that'll let the flavor come out.
You want to do that on a cutting board? Yeah.
And so once the sauce gets the flavor of the garlic, I'll take the garlic out. And most people will either
You hear that sizzle? That's what you want to hear. Okay, don't put anything into a cold pot or a pan.
otherwise then you're boiling it. You can crush red pepper?
I'm sorry.
No?
I'll check.
So usually what I like to do,
Keep
depends if it's
videotaping
just
him.
me, or if it's for other people too, You guys like spice at all? Yeah? Not at all?
What?
You like spice?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll add the tiniest amount. You won't even taste it. It'll just give flavor. So if I'm just making a pizza for mates, I'll add a lot of crushed red pepper to it. It's gonna add flavor. And if I'm making a sauce for like a pasta, like a red sauce, that's gonna be deep and hearty, I'll add wine at this point too. And then the wine will cook out. So if you put wine in early, right, where it's got a chance to like boil and sizzle, it'll actually cook out the alcohol of it. Not completely, I looked it up, because my mom used to always say, you ever have any vodka before? It's like an orangey sauce type of thing. It's an American thing, it's not Italian, it's an Italian American thing. But with that, you add vodka to it, and then it adds flavor to it, and then it cooks off. I was looking it up, and it doesn't cook all of it off. But I think it cooks enough of it out that you won't really get the alcohol at that point. So those are toasting up. Good. Want me to use this?
Sure.
Okay. And if you guys really like garlic and you leave the garlic in there, you want to make sure that it doesn't burn. If it burns, it gets bitter and it's going to change the taste of the sauce. So I'm just kind of browning this to add the flavor. When you make sauce and things like that, it's to your flavor. So it really depends on how you like it. Alright, so I'm actually going to turn this down a little bit now. Now see if I just dumped it all in without like a spoon there or anything, you can hear that sizzle, the tomato's going to be like popping out, you're going to have tomato sauce everywhere. I'm already making a mess. Now the bottom's coated, it's not gonna pop everywhere. So I feel more confident adding the rest of it in. I'm really making a mess now. So clean as I go. Don't do this because guys, it's probably hot. I'll do it because I'm stupid. And I work around heat a lot. Just turn the timer on. Now I'll turn it up a little bit. I don't want it to cook too fast, but cooking it brings the flavors together. And then as the flavors are coming together, I'll add I'll let it cook on its own a little bit. And then as we're cooking, I'll start to add some of the herbs. But me personally, I like the sauce to come together a little bit first before I add some of the other flavors. At this point, I will add salt though. You see how it's bubbling? So I'm going to turn it down a little bit because I don't want it to cook that fast. So now truly I'll just let it sit for a little bit. And then maybe in 5-10 minutes we could try it to see what the flavors are like. And then we could add the basil, we'll add a little oregano. I didn't see the pepper here, I'll actually add the pepper now. Don't do this either because otherwise you might get too much in.
Yeah.
So even though it's pepper, it's black pepper, it's not, especially in the sauce with this much tomatoes and everything else that's going to be going in, it's adding flavor, it's not really adding spice. I'll add some of the herbs, and then we'll taste the difference once the herbs come in. You guys like onion? No? Alright. So another way of making the sauce, that would be more of an amatriciana. In the beginning, you would go onion, you would add the meat and the oil, and then let that cook together, and then add the tomato sauce. That's called the amatriciana. As I've gotten older, I started to like onion more. When I was younger, I hated it though. Alright, so let's let that sit. You always want to come back and check it every once in a while to make sure the tomatoes aren't sticking to the bottom or anything, because that means the heat's too high and it needs to move too. But it's pretty easy and it kind of takes care of itself. You guys got any questions? No? You getting hungry? Huh? Yeah? If anyone wants to stir it, you can stir it. I mean, there's not much to do at this point. But I'll do one more step. I'll layer them, just so it saves you time and energy, and you're not, like I was saying, you're cutting basil, it can turn dark real quick. So you don't want to spend a lot of time cutting and going through it a lot. And then I'll fold them over. And ready to cut.
In French, that's called a chiffonade.
But we don't care about the French, we're Italian today.
We're Italian today. There you go.
And so from here, put some love. Parsley is a little bit more forgiving.
That's there's two different types of parsley. That is a Italian flat leaf parsley, and another parsley is called curly leaf parsley.
Now, if we were making something Mexican, we'd be using cilantro instead of parsley,
Cilantro.
which is similar look. I don't know about similar flavors.
Has a different flavor. It's
And a lot
very
of people
strong
don't like
flavor.
Cilantro is like I like it or I hate it kind of thing.
It's something that you have to grow up enjoying.
Now I'll try to take out a little bit of those stems so we're not biting into stems. But we found it's easier once you cut it to kind of get the big stems out. So the difference, right? I'm going to add some oregano into the sauce as well. But the difference between these fresh herbs and the dry herbs, right? This is going to pack a bigger punch. It's going to have more of an intense flavor. Where these are going to add flavor, but they'll add more freshness.
Right. Always use fresh herbs as much as possible. It's an entirely different flavor.
All right, so let me add some parsley. Now we'll add some basil. And if you don't feel like cutting, it's normal to have full pieces of basil and sauce.
Oh, does that look beautiful?
I am going to add some oregano. I do like to take the oregano and sauce like this. That's another one that I have grown in my garden. So I do have parsley, oregano, basil. So I could just go outside and grab these herbs. But I do like dried oregano for a lot of sauces.
Should you add a little sugar to the sauce to cut down on the acidity?
I
And
rarely
bitterness?
ever add
Really? Okay.
sugar. Yeah.
Okay.
The sweetness of some come from one section of Italy. And if you want to make a real Neapolitan Naples-style pizza, you have to use San Marzano tomatoes. There's like a law in Italy that you can't call it a Neapolitan pizza unless you use San Marzano tomatoes.
What else do you do?
Then they probably give you a ticket. They're not strict about many things. Pizza, pasta, other forms of cooking is the areas that they get strict.
And San Marciano is grown where?
So San Marzano is right near Mount Vesuvius in Naples. So Mount Vesuvius, you guys ever learn about Pompeii?
I heard of Pompeii.
So Pompeii you probably learned about maybe in 9th grade global. So it's this huge volcano, and it came down and it erupted about 2,000 years ago. And when it did, it took out the city of Pompeii. So if you go to Pompeii, you can still see, like, the city's completely intact. Like, obviously things have fallen apart. But you'll see pictures of, like, dogs, or actual dogs and people, like this and stuff, because they're encased within the lava and the ash. So I can show you some pictures. But what that does do is volcanic soil is really, really rich in nutrients. So it grows some of the best tomatoes. But Italy didn't even have tomatoes. That came from the Americas. After like Columbus and other people came, they brought tomatoes back to Europe, and that's when pizza gets invented. So there's spoons and forks right here. Anybody else want to try? Yeah? Yeah? You want to try? You just come up and grab one of the bowls. You grab the spoon. Mr. Rick, you want to tell me what you think needs to be added?
Sure, definitely.
Anxiety to try? So if you're in the north, in a separate region, if you want something spicy, a lot of times you'll say alla calabrese, so like the Calabrian way, that's where peppers, like really spicy peppers come from. So I think I get it from both my grandpas, because both my grandpas love spicy food. So me and my brother are the same way, like we love spicy, and that probably comes from our Calabrian side. And when I go to Italy, a lot of times I'll bring home Calabrian peppers and sneak them in because you're not legally allowed to take them.
Huh?
You're not allowed to bring like seeds. You're not supposed to bring cheese or pork. You're not supposed to bring anything that can carry any type of bacteria or any kind of
Right.
negative.
Right.
But so when 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, when we went to Italy, France, and Spain with 25 students, Miss Courtney was honest. And those of you that remember Miss Courtney, she was honest and she said like she had certain things in her bag, and the TDA like, is that what they're not TDA?
TSA. TSA.
TSA like pulled her aside and they're like, all right, you gotta go through your bag. And then they took away like all this like aged prosciutto that like was expensive, some other things that she had. Me, I had like a full bag of things from France and Italy and Spain. And I was just like, nope, I don't have any of these things. And I walked right through. I gave her some of my stuff because she lost everything. So I'm not telling you to lie, but I did. So as this is cooking, so let this all come together a little bit more. You take a look at the dough. It hasn't risen much. It hasn't been that long enough.